We are back, baby.
Back. It's been a while.
It's been a minute. We've been a little busy. Little busy.
We
We're still
have.
leaking out episodes from Austin from November that we never released.
Right. We got to get Christians out. Christian Lopez.
We released
We got to
it.
get it at some point. We did? Did
Yeah,
that one come
good
out?
job.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
dude, I need to go tweet some stuff about
No, it
that.
was a good episode.
Yeah, Christian's the man. I love that dude.
We've been putting in a lot of work behind the scenes. I know it may not seem like it, and everybody keeps asking us, "Hey, are we still doing episodes?" Of course, we are just wanting to go a little bit of a different direction. I think with the show. We've wanted to expand the scope, get more into the intersection of not only Bitcoin mining and energy, but really AI, compute, AI infrastructure, and power generation. I think there's a convergence that's happening between all of these. We've seen AI players turn into Bitcoin miners turn into, the AI players. Power is going to be underpinning all of it. It's the hot topic at, any gathering in this space. And so, plus, there's only so many Bitcoin miners. We can only talk to so many groups. And so, really wanting to understand everything that's happening, at this intersection between all of this, it's where I'm focusing my time personally, and as are you. And we'll kind of talk some more about that. But wanting to expand the scope of the show and really wanting to put a lot more effort into this. I mean, it's fun. We really enjoy it. And so, we're going to be taking this thing on the road. We'll be hitting Bitcoin 2025 conference, probably doing a whole bunch of shows there. There's also, I got somebody mentioned to me Bitcoin Park in Austin. There's something that's
Mhm.
happening.
Yeah, they're doing the Texas Energy and Mining Summit. I think it's
Okay.
May 6th and 7th. And I don't know if you ever got to go to the one in Nashville at Bitcoin Park,
No, I
but
never got to make it out.
dude, it's super dope. I think it's one of the best events that I've been to, and really high quality speakers, high quality content, and Bitcoin Park is just dope. Really, really dope. The Nashville one. Bitcoin Commons is now Bitcoin Park Austin. So that's what it is. I've had people ask me about that too. And I'm like, I wasn't sure until I saw it just literally like a couple weeks ago. So, but yeah, they're doing the Texas Energy and Mining Summit May 6th and 7th. I'm just waitlisted. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I hope I get in. Like, I've
Oh,
been involved in mining in Texas for a while. I'm Parker, dude. You gotta get me in there.
is Parker
So
running it?
yeah, well, I mean, he's part of it. So
Okay.
I'm not sure. I haven't heard the story of like how because Bitcoin Park, in Nashville, like they set up that whole facility. That how did you go there when you were out in Nashville?
No, I never get to stop
Dude,
by.
it's super. It's sick. I love the way they did it. They had, that kind of site, and I think now Bitcoin Commons became Bitcoin Park Austin. I think they're kinda trying to implement the same type of vibe and all that, which is super cool, and I think they're that event, they were usually doing it like South by Southwest, or during Bitcoin Takeover. I think it's kind of they still did that this year, but I think it's kind of like, that maybe this is gonna be more like the event in Nashville, and,
Gotcha.
again, they do that in January, super cool though, man, really just high quality folks there and much more intimate than, like, your typical, like, conference or whatever, which we should talk about Empower, by the way.
So we were in Fort Lauderdale for Mining Disrupt, and we got a lot of time to talk and got to talk to a lot of people. And this has been a theme for at least like the last year as everybody kind of corners me at a social gathering. They're like, when are we doing Empower? Can you please bring it back? So we've been thinking about it, and it's something that we definitely want to do for the community. However, I don't have the desire to host another really large conference. And I'll tell you why. For one, it's a lot of work. The last three Empowers that we did took 6 months of my life each. And that was like pretty much the only thing that I was focused on. Don't get me wrong, they were amazing and I loved it and it was awesome. I'm so glad that we did it. But with everything that I have going on, it's just not realistic. And the same thing is if I put myself in the shoes of an attendee, right? Usually you're there for a few different reasons, right? We're all there to do business. We're all there to network and hang out. But if you really get down to making those kind of connections, if you're somebody who's like new to the space and you're looking to get deals done and you show up and there's 1,200 people there, you're kind of just shotgun blasting. So you'd go hang out at the expo for a little bit, go to the content, hang out at the networking parties, and just try to meet the people that you're looking for. And so we have kind of started to reimagine what Empower can be. And so if we can jump to straight to the end of like making deals happen and making Empower a little bit more deal centric, what does that look like? And so we've been talking a lot about reimagining this as more of like a retreat. And so the numbers would obviously be significantly smaller. This would be a lot more of an exclusive event. And the vision here is to bring together miners, AI infrastructure groups, data center builders, people in the power gen space, and capital providers, right? And so I see the nucleus of this really being centered around having groups that have vetted deals come out and pitch their deals to the room, right? And then have the investors be able to look at a perspectives of all the deals, including the deal that's being presented, and then say, hey, I would love to meet with this group. And then after that, move on to some speed dating, right? To where we can actually make these things happen. Um, Events like this have been very successful in the past in totally different spaces. This is how I met some people that I've become great friends with in the past through like the Rice Alliance does a tech, like a VC thing. So if you're a startup and you want to meet with investors, I got to meet with a ton of investors, get a lot of really great feedback with people that I'm still friends with today. And so just taking that same kind of format. So it's like that kind of meets like NAPE, but for this space. And I think that that would be really magical. So from the vision here is from the time that you land at whatever the venue is that we decide, everything will be all inclusive. And so the ticket price, whatever it may be, will include the 2 nights of stay. It's going to be a really nice place wherever we decide. All food, all drinks, everything else. There's going to be a lot of activities that we're going to be doing. It's not just going to be stuffy, sitting at a conference, watching a ton of panels all day. There's not going to be an expo portion whatsoever. So we have already started a wait list. And so if you want to go to energizingbitcoinpodcast.com, there's a wait list. You can go and um, throw your name on there, give us a little bit of feedback. And we plan on kind of opening this up. And if there's enough demand and if people are interested enough in this, then we'll pull it off. And we'll do it sometime in probably the first half of 2026.
Yeah, and, I'll be honest, man, the biggest reason I'm excited about it is I am really sick of conferences being basically the same thing, and we've talked about this a lot, and I've heard it from, literally this week alone. I've had, like, 5 people talk to me about how boring the conferences have gotten and just repetitive, and it gets to where it's like, man, we are literally just seeing each other in a new town or a new city, same people over and over. This thing, there's room for this, in my opinion. I mean, we wouldn't
Yeah.
be trying to do it if we didn't think there was. So, I think it'll go over well, and I think there is a need for it. We'll get into a little bit about what each of us are working on and doing now, but bringing capital to groups that need it, and groups that are looking for it is it's a great purpose for a event like this. And I know you recently went to one and felt like you got a lot out of it. And New Wave, like I think you mentioned it already. I know we've talked about it so much, so that might be what's in my mind. But New Wave was one. It's where I met you, dude. So,
Yeah. So
but it was a
new
lot closer,
Yeah,
more intimate.
it was the only retreat that we ever did with Digital Wildcatters, and there was like 60 people, I think, total, and we had some really great names. Toby Rice was there, John Farber from Lime Rock, a bunch of other people. And yeah, we had a couple small little sessions about some hot topics, kind of Chatham House rules. And then we had a variety of activities and dinners, and the fire pit was open till like, super late. People were out there hanging out,
Dude,
doing
had so
doing
much
oil
fun.
and gas deals until like 2.
Yeah.
Justin tries to beat up a comedian. Um, Thankfully, that didn't stifle his career. He's gone on to do great things, and he's become really popular.
Who, me or
Uh,
the, comedian?
Both, yeah.
Definitely him, man, he's done
But yeah,
better than
like
I
that, like you
have.
said, that's where we met. We just so happened to get
Right.
matched up on the golf day, and so we were in the
Mhm.
car together, just kind of driving around, and then we just kind of hit it off. And everything you see here is a result of that. So yeah, mashing kind of like that new wave retreat concept with with the Empower crowd and expanding the scope of that a little bit to include our brethren in the AI and power gen space. And so, if this is something you guys are interested in, fill out the wait list, give us a little bit of feedback, and we're going to pull it off.
I think it's gonna be super dope. I do.
And here's the
Yeah, I
thing,
just
we have a little bit more freedom because historically we were constrained because that was the business model at the time, for Digital Wildcat. We were a
right,
media company. We had to make money on those. So to be absolutely clear, this makes money, great. If it doesn't, as long as it like breaks even, then we're like totally fine, right? And this is more of continue to move the space forward. This is aligned with what both of us are doing kind of individually. And so we hear you, we want to do it. This is how we're imagining it. And so if this is a great idea, fill out the wait list. If it's a terrible idea, fill out the wait list and also tell us it's a terrible idea. And then we will take into consideration that feedback as well.
right, right. But again, it's gonna be dope.
It's going to be a good idea. It's
Yeah,
going to be
we've already
fun.
talked to a lot of people, and they're all literally everybody I've talked to is super excited about it. So, plus, man, I mean, there's a cool factor. Like Jake Corley's gonna be there, running the
I
show, coming up
mean,
with it.
where
All
else are you going to get that?
no, on energizing Bitcoin. That's it.
That's it. That's it. Well,
But
you've had a
yeah,
lot of
man.
life changes recently. So what have
Yeah.
you been, the people don't know what you've been up to. I know what you've been up to, but what life changes have happened? What are you working on? What are you excited about?
Man, all kinds of them. So big one, obvious one for me and you that we've talked about is no longer with Atacon. That was as of I don't know a month or two ago, something like that. Closed some nice deals there. Created a lot of value and opportunity, and proud of that and excited about what I did, but just it was time to move on to different things, and I wish them luck, and I think that they will have some good things going on, I'm sure. But yeah, man, it was just there were some opportunities out there too that I think I want to pursue a little bit more, which we've talked about, and one of them is I've been doing a lot of work with Texas Energy Group and Waylon Johnson over the last and it's been probably 8 months, honestly, since I've been around, working with him over there at TEG. They're trying to get their name a little bit bigger. Th he sold Pump Jack Power last year. I think, they've been kinda closing that up for a while, so, this is like a new endeavor that he's got going, and, we've got some cool stuff we're working on the gas side of things, so we're gonna talk about that with you too, but, yeah, it's we've got a lot of traction. I'm excited about what we're putting together, and there's a big need for it, as we'll talk about here in a little bit as well. But also, working with Emory Energy and my boy Russell Okun over there and George McHale. I've been working with
Russell's
those.
great. I got to meet him
Oh,
for the
dude.
first time in Fort Lauderdale.
I
Russell's a chill
dude,
guy. There's just
super
immaculate
chill.
vibes.
Right, you gotta meet George too. You haven't got to
Yeah, no,
spend the
George is
whole well, yeah, you
phenomenal.
met him on when he came on the
Yeah,
show, but, like,
yeah.
man, just those 2 dudes, like, I got a few friends, alright? I got a lot of people I know and that I consider great people, but, like, my close, close friends and well, obviously you're my boy, dude, but George and Russ are 2 of the other ones. Obviously there's a lot more too, and everybody knows, you know who you are. Mario, you're one of my boys too. So, but like it's hard to find people that you want to work with, for a long time and that you can kind of trust on that level. You are one of them, like I just said, but Russ and George are definitely on that list too. And like for me, like being spiritually aligned with somebody is hard to find because I'm kind of a weirdo and a little bit of a hippie. But
We're all
dude, they're
dying.
right, we're all dying. I'm getting that tattoo. My daughter actually asked me about getting a tattoo the other day. She turned 18, and I've been kind of trying to figure out where to push her and the whole memento mori, Marcus Aurelius stuff. I'm trying to really get her into that. So, yeah, man, we're all dying, and George and Russ both like understand that and like live by that. And there's there's making money is very important when you're going to business ventures, and it's actually like basically the goal. But doing so with people that are like spiritually aligned with you, dude, and kind of got the same philosophy on life and outlook is really, really, really high importance to me. And so, yeah, dude, I'm excited for what we're gonna be doing over there. We're basically a way I would describe it is almost like, well, we're mining already,
You guys have the
but
site in Victoria, right, that you guys
right,
set
got a
up?
site in Victoria, and it's doing great. But going to expand a lot more and look for other mining opportunities, in addition to some like more creative ones and working directly with some co-ops or utilities and load balancing and looking for kind of peak time structures where we can almost work with those groups to attack some opportunities. And I want to look at some wind farms and whole lot of just generation opportunities where you don't necessarily they're quick returns. Um, Also, really looking heavily into things like Corley Energy, which I'll let you talk about, but the power generation side, we're very, very in getting into some oil and gas opportunities, like just blending all the things that you and I and have spent probably the last 10, 15 years of our lives on, and kind of combining them all into opportunities that are going to be really, really accretive financially and of value to us and to the company, but also just doing it with kind of the right intentions in mind, man. And so I am super excited about all the stuff I'm working on. Waylon's a great dude. TEG, they've got a great group of people over there. McKaylin, one of my daughters, is over there as well. So that's been fun and getting to work with her. And I know we've talked just about it before, but we're going to have kind of TEG stepping in and doing like some ERCOT updates and market updates going forward, things like that. So we're not only we're gonna expand the show too, I guess was what we need, and kind of structure it a little bit more. In the past, we usually just show up and shoot the shit and have a good time, which we're gonna still do. We don't wanna lose that aspect of it, but we wanna, kinda bring some additional things in and expand what we do. But yeah, from a work front, man, TEG and Emory, and then I'm still working some deals on the side, and I got my hand in a lot of stuff still, but trying to narrow the group of people that I'm working with. You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
excited for you. I mean, I think this is absolutely right up your lane. Not to toot your horn too much, but I mean, you see more deals probably than anybody, and I think that you're equipped, especially with Emory to go out and really seize this. There's just so much opportunity. So they're lucky to
Yeah,
have you.
dude.
You're lucky to have them. So I do want to give a quick shout out to Gian Mendoza, who he said he's been
Oh
working with you guys on
yeah,
your site. So I
yeah.
tweeted. My my mom came to me and she goes, "You know what your son said he wants to be when he grows up?" My oldest, who's 6. And I was like, "What?" She was like, "He wants to be a Bitcoin miner." And I was like, "Oh, really? He wants to be like dad." And I was like, "You know what? I thought about that a lot." And I was like, "Well, why wait?" He's been out to a site.
Mhm.
He went out to the 10 Net Zero site, their off-grid site out there, and so he's seen it, firsthand. He's been to the Bitcoin meetups. He was at Empower like all 3 years. I was like, why wait? So I tweeted about that, and Gian sent me a message. He goes, "Hey, I'm gonna hook your son up with a BitX." And
Oh, sweet.
so I've
Yeah.
got that being delivered. And so just wanted to give him a shout out. It was really thoughtful and really kind of him for doing that. So if you guys are looking for any equipment, go check those guys out. I really appreciate it,
Basic
Gian. Thanks
mining.
again. Yep, go
Yep.
check those guys out. But
Gian's a
yeah,
good dude. He actually does a lot of work with us too.
does
Good
he?
dude. Yep. Yep. I love Gian. So yeah, yeah, totally big fan of him and basic mining.
Love it.
Yeah, dude. So what about you though, bro? I mean, I know, but why don't you kind of delve a little bit? You've talked about it here and there on the show, but not
I've
in a
alluded to
whole
it.
lot of detail.
Yeah,
Yeah, you've
yeah.
alluded to it, but
I've alluded to it. So, and the reason I haven't been like full offensive with putting content out about that, even though I've been recording a lot of stuff behind the scenes that will release like well after the fact, is we've looked at a few different deals, and one of the deals, and he may be listening to the show, but we were looking at some of their assets, some oil and gas assets, and I was like,
don't violate any NCAs right now
I was like,
or
yeah.
NDAs. I'm sorry.
I was like, "Hey, like, we know we're, like, looking at y'all's assets." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I know." He's like, "I've made a pitch to, management for us to, like, go and do this ourselves." And he pulled this whole presentation, and he was like, "Guess where I learned it all?" He was like, "Your podcast." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So, I was like, "I'm gonna be a little quieter, about certain things, but I'll talk high level about what we're working on." So, obviously, you know, really, the seed was planted really with the first Empower. Just really just getting thrown into kind of the center of this ecosystem and getting to meet a lot of people and see all the cool things that they're working on. And it was a huge, learning curve. Obviously understanding the oil and gas side, but kind of diving into mining and then subsequently into, to AI and to power generation, all this. And so I was always trying to put together the thesis of like, what does the energy company of the future look like? And that was really always my goal in Digital Wildfire. What Digital Wildcatters gave me the opportunity to have a great platform to meet a lot of really smart, successful, hardworking people and to learn a lot and to build an absolutely great network of people that I can recruit for the team, of, capital providers and banks and a variety of other things, right? And it just kind of became clear to me this was something that I was starting to spend more like nights and weekends thinking about. And I talked about it publicly about, the direction that I thought that particularly oil and gas companies should go, those that have a significant amount of gas and kind of getting more into the Bitcoin mining space. And it seemingly has fallen on deaf ears. And so I kind of got to the point to where I was in Fort Worth. Me and Phil Stanley were just like out having drinks one night, and I was like, man, I got this thesis. Somebody should go like do this. And he was like, well, why don't you do it? And I was like, dude, I have a rule. I kind of just do like one thing at a time. Um, and so that kind
I
of planted the
obviously don't
seed.
follow that rule.
You don't follow that rule very well.
I got, like, at any point, like, 12 jobs, but, Sarah has worked on me, and I'm reining it in, but go ahead, my bad.
And he was like, well, what if I did it with you? And I was like, well, then that changes things. And so, fast forward a little bit, I exited Digital Wildcatters and left to go pursue starting Corley Energy. So I guess the $1 million question is, what are we doing? I'll talk about the thesis, but I wanted to kind of give some context to how we got here. And so we are in the process of, fingers crossed, purchasing some natural gas assets in Texas. It's a significant amount of gas, and then a lot of other infrastructure associated with a bunch of pipelines and some other stuff. I won't give away too many details so people don't pick up on what I'm putting down on exactly which site this is. But we plan on turning all of that gas into power. And so we have the capacity currently for approximately, once you kind of factor in shrink, about 150 megawatts of power. And so we'll be selling half that to AI data centers, and then we'll Bitcoin mine off the other half. And then we'll also build an interconnect to be able to sell power back to the grid, which is, as we talked about on the show, it's pretty much a lottery ticket, but it's a lottery ticket that's worth it, in my
Mhm.
opinion. So we plan on growing the volumes over time through more strategic acquisitions. If we have to drill, we will. We'll be getting a significant amount of leases as well, but ideally by just acquiring more uh, other producing natural gas assets, being able to tie them into our infrastructure, grow the volumes, bring on as much power as we can, and then rinse and repeat. And so we're looking at going up to Alaska. It's kind of a logical kind of next step. There's a ton of gas up there. People don't realize that that's the largest gas field in the entire world, and they just don't have a market for it, right? So they re-inject like 8.5 BCF of gas a day, and so they've already been kind of courting hyperscalers up there and Bitcoin miners, and they want to incentivize them to come up there. So that's probably a logical next step for us. Also, obviously Ohio, Pennsylvania, those are, right there in the Marcellus and the Utica. There's just a ton of gas. And so that's something that we could consider potentially in the future as well. But we've got a great team. So obviously myself, Phil Stanley. For those who don't know Phil, you can go back and listen to the episode that we did with him, kind of a few episodes back. But Phil was, one of the first investors in Giga. And he's invested in a lot of other on-grid and off-grid Bitcoin mining. Done very well for himself. Mark Meyer, he's the former CTO of Apache Corporation. So Apache, really large oil and gas company, been around a very long time. Before that, he ran research at the investment bank Tudor Pickering and Holt, and then before that, he ran the Raymond Family Office, and then part of that, he was at Goldman. So Mark's
Dude, you got some
hands
freaking ballers, bro.
He's a baller. He's a hardcore baller, man. He's one of the smartest people I ever met in the industry. And I went to him not thinking that I was gonna like get him onto the team. I went to him to pitch him and say, like, hey, like, if anybody's gonna tear this thesis apart, it's gonna be him. And so I told him what we were working on, and he was like, "Yeah, this is it." And then he goes on a monologue for like an hour of like why it would work. And I was like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." And I'm like, "So what do you want to do?" He was like, "I want to get back on the field. I want to do this." And I was like, "Done. You're on the team." He's like,
Sweet,
"What's my
dude.
role?" And I was like, "I don't care." You're like, "What the
Whatever you
skies
want,
have
bro.
ever known. We'll
Yeah.
make it work." And then the man who's doing most of the work right now, who's really putting the team on his back, is Tim Bozeman. So Tim started Winbite Acquisition, sold that to MD America, and then stayed on to run that for their investors for quite a long time. And so I've met a lot of engineers, throughout my career, and Tim is up there with the best of them. And what I love about Tim is he also is not just intelligent. He was also very creative, and he always finds a solution to all sorts of problems. And he's just the most even keel guy you ever met in your life. He's just very laid back and relaxed, and just has like the best attitude, and love spending time with him. So yeah, he's brilliant. He's doing most of our evaluation work right now, trying to get this deal done. So yeah, he's really putting the team on his
Dude,
back. But
it's exciting, man.
it's
Like,
exciting. I'm fired
yeah,
up,
like,
man.
getting this close to actually closing on something like that, yeah, man, it's exciting. And it's something that, I don't know, I'm gonna be very happy for you. Very proud of you, man. You know what I
Fingers
mean?
crossed, man. Fingers crossed. We ain't
Yeah.
closed it yet, but I'm hoping the
No,
next
I
like
know, but man, just
90
getting
days
out,
ish.
yeah, and just getting out and doing stuff is scary for a lot of people. Most people don't ever do the things that they actually wanna do, and, this is not intended to be a knock on digital wildcatters or anything at all, but, like, leaving something like that to go pursue what you want to do, I I try to tell people all the time is, like, just man, we only live one time and we're all dying. Like, don't
We're all
waste your
dying.
time doing stuff, either working with people you don't want to work with or working in something you don't want to work with in. Like, get out and go do the thing that you feel like God's calling you to do, man. Don't waste no time. It's not worth it. End of the
Yeah.
day, it's not gonna matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna want to look back and be like, I had a good time. We get one shot. And it's like, man, I hope I enjoy as many of my days as possible. And when work is that big of a portion of your life, you better freaking enjoy it. So, no point in sitting around doing stuff that you don't really want to do. And I'm proud of you, man, just for going after going after something you want to do.
I'm proud of you, dude.
Thanks. Thanks, Jake. I appreciate it, man.
All
You
right,
want to
so
talk some
enough of the
current
circle
events?
jerk. Let's get into some things that are happening in the world that we are
There's a
paying
lot.
attention to. Obviously, kind of the billion-dollar question right now is it's up, it's down, it's left, it's right. Tariffs. How are you thinking about tariffs? How are tariffs, kind of affecting this space?
Well, I mean, the obvious one is like the pause that Trump did, there's that was great. I made some good money that day. Still on the whole MSTU and MSTR and MSTY train, even though I certainly bought in at a high time. I've been working some ways to get some money back, and actually, this volatility has helped. So that's been good, but there's obviously a lot of uncertainty right now, and the tariffs with China being kinda really the I feel like
The
it's really the
the
US
main
versus
villain.
China.
Yeah,
Right,
it really
right.
is.
At the end of the day, it's what it is, and this especially with this 90-day pause, but so much of the mining industry, manufacturing, infrastructure, the computers, everything come from China, so that's obviously, gonna impact it quite a bit. Now the 90-day pause gives them some relief because a lot of it comes from, like, Malaysia, those areas too. But it is gonna be really interesting to see what happens. I think it was Ethan over at Luxor was talking about, like, another 36% tariff on the machine cost. It can virtually make these machines never pay out. Like, that's
Yeah.
a reality. And so, um, is this if how long these stick around and how bad it ends up getting. I mean, we're at a hash price right now, it's like 44 bucks a petahash. That's low. And so the margins are already super, super thin. But so depending on how long these stick around, there can be some serious impact on hash rate. miner profitability. I mean, I don't know how it's gonna play out. I don't think anybody does, and that's part of the problem for the market, right? Is we don't know what's going on. Um, but for miners like well, like myself and the ones who, I'm actually kind of excited because we have machines running here. And so the value on those goes up quite a bit. So
And the
I
value of
I
really
do
any machines that are already stateside, I imagine, would now
right.
start to command a premium.
Right, and if you've seen all the amount of money being paid to try to get things in right now before this 90-day window's up, I think it's up to, like, July 9th or something like that. There's people trying to get things in now, but the just the Chinese, tariff alone is it's gonna cause some serious upheaval if it sticks around, so, I mean, there's a lot gonna happen. The next 90 days is a very interesting time. I think that there's potential that we could see hash rate be affected, maybe not immediately, but the hash rate increase could certainly start slowing down tremendously. I do see that happening, but I think people are gonna. I mean, trying to raise money right now with the tariffs in place, I I don't envy anybody trying to do that if they're a straight Bitcoin miner right now. Like that it's gotta be tough because there's so much uncertainty as to what's gonna happen because of the tariff. So, now that being said, I actually think if you're just looking at it purely from, like, what is the US doing to combat China, I'm still believing that, there's a plan in place and that, you know, I'm with the whole narrative that there is going to be pain before there's a lot of gains. And so I'm in it for the long haul, man. I'm not gonna bail on this strategy that Trump's had with it. I trust them to continue to move forward and hopefully it works out and hopefully we got a better uh hand of cards than the Chinese do. But for the mining world, I think there's gonna be a little bit of pain from this for a while. And maybe not a little bit, it might be a lot of pain.
Yeah, it's I've man, I've tried to educate myself as much as I can on the topic and listen to a lot of podcasts, and I've kind of gone back and forth, and I kind of see both sides of it. I think I've kind of settled on, and I agree. I think there's gonna be a lot of short term pain. I do think this kind of I don't know. I guess maybe reshuffling of the cards to
Mhm.
get us back into more of a dominant, secure position as really the leaders of the free world. I think it's probably essential. And we've seen a few things already play out exactly the way that they intended them to. And so
Mhm.
certain car manufacturers that are like European car manufacturers are actually planning on building factories here in the US,
Mm.
which is that's the entire point is to bring back
Right.
manufacturing. Now, I do understand the point that there are certain types of manufacturing jobs that are probably just not going to be available or nobody's going to want to do that kind of work
Mhm.
until probably 3 years from now, and we have, like, AI powered, robotics that can manufacture
Right.
just about anything. But this administration wants that to be built in the US, and I understand that. And also from, a security standpoint with, things and this doesn't have to do with this show, but, like, pharmaceuticals. I mean, most of our pharmaceuticals are made in China. Like, imagine if some other pandemic, was to kinda break out and they were the ones who, kinda held, all of the whether it be a I don't know, some sort of medication or whatever
Right.
for this
Well,
space.
dude,
It's not a really great
grid
position to be
infrastructure
in.
too. Yeah, grid
Yeah.
infrastructure too. Like the whole thing about the Chinese manufactured transformers, utility level transformers with the back doors in them. Like that's real stuff. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That is something that, from a national security perspective, I do think the administrations have an obligation to confront. You can't ignore that. And so, yeah, pharmaceuticals, grid infrastructure, like those things those are real things that I do believe completely. The Trump administration, any presidential administration should be taking on and confronting. So, yeah, man, it's going to be painful for a little bit, but I think it's necessary in some level.
Yeah, I am curious how this is gonna play out with obviously, we saw, like, that massive swing. Like, we've seen swings, like,
Dude, crazy.
within between opening and closing in a single day of the S&P just, absolutely taking a shit and then coming back and then taking a shit again, and it's hard to say what is the investor appetite for this space going to be, particularly over the next, let's just call it 12 months?
Oh, dude, I don't know. Like, I think there's gonna be continued uncertainty for a while. Like, these things are I don't think the volatility's gone away. It actually, it was down the last few days, but, like, I don't think the volatility in the market is gonna go away until there's some serious resolution with the Europeans, with I don't think China's gonna get resolved anytime soon, but the rest of the world, like, as some of those chips start falling in place, there'll be a little bit of normalcy come back. I tend to also, and I hope I don't come back in, 6 months and be like, "Man, I was totally wrong," but I tend to think that there's often, overblown drama and rhetoric, in times like this, and so, yeah, I mean, the uncertainty's real, the impacts on the bond market stuff. Like, I'm not a financial expert by any stretch of the imagination, but the dumping of the bonds that we've seen has been pretty dramatic, and that I think is something that could have a lasting impact for a little while. I think that's something that could carry on, and I do think that that ultimately, even though we haven't totally seen it, I do think that Bitcoin continues to chip away and steal some of the safe haven narrative and pull it over to its side. You know what I mean? I do think there's starting to be a little bit of a the rest of the world's looking at it and taking it more serious. The strategic Bitcoin reserve, even though that hasn't all been resolved, I think that's kind of giving the rest of the world the viewpoint of like, we need to take this serious. And they're going to start kind of looking for ways to accumulate more Bitcoin. I don't know how this impacts the US and the ability to get access to cheap capital if the bond market is impacted like it has been and continues to erode. I don't know how that shakes out, man. I'm a lawyer. I'm not we should call Marty Bent and have him on again because this is kind of his area. But I do think that long term, this is probably all good for Bitcoin, what's going on right now.
I would
I don't
agree.
know. What do you think, dude?
And I think so. It seems like this is kind of like the perfect storm. You're starting to see, this is not like great for us as a nation necessarily. It's good for Bitcoin, where Russia and China are settling energy contracts on Bitcoin.
Right, right.
That's
How
big.
long we been
And
saying
so,
that's gonna happen, though? You know what I
yeah,
mean? I do think that is it's almost impossible to me for that not to happen on a big scale. Like, I don't think the dollar's gonna always be the currency that oil's based in. I just don't. And that's not because I'm unpatriotic. It's just because I think if I'm the rest of the world, that's probably where I start going. Just the reality.
well, there's a lot of other things that are happening kind of in the policy space that affect this industry. And so one of the hot topics was a proposed bill called the Cloud Act. It's proposing that it requires 11% annual carbon reductions from Bitcoin miners, AI data centers, and with the end goal, this is where it gets pretty retarded, is 100% renewable power by 2035. So
Absurd.
let's just zoom out, right?
It ain't
And so
happening.
you talk to anybody everywhere, whether it's the Bitcoin mining event or an AI conference. What's everybody talking about? Power. There's not enough power. And so, and we'll kind of talk about what some of the stuff that we're seeing and some of the transactions. But if you're wanting to go particularly on grid, get in line. That's why we're starting
Right,
to see a lot more sites start to transact from, AI groups coming and buying Bitcoin miners. And the forecast for what we need in power production just here in the US is like astronomical. It's like 3 times what we have currently. And so by trying to propose a bill to hamstring that doesn't make any sense. I mean, AI is going to be a zero sum game, right? It's whoever wins this dominates. It's like it's the equivalent of if the internet was privatized and a company could have a piece of that. What would that be worth over time? And that's why there's no limit to what these tech companies are willing to spend on sites and on power, on infrastructure. They will invest whatever it takes to win this game. And we want, kind of going back to security, we want us to be the leaders in that, right?
right.
I don't want the entire world to be run off Chinese AI. Sorry.
No, no,
So
yeah, that
this is
the
it absolutely doesn't make sense. And the emission standards currently, because this was like one of our biggest bottlenecks, right? For Corley Energy. It's the procurement of turbines, right, in a realistic time frame. Not to mention, they're not cheap. But being able to even get an order in and have them delivered in a reasonable amount of time is problem number
oh,
one.
it's crazy.
Problem
It's
number
crazy.
two is making sure that we are within the emission standards, right? And so it's specing out the right kinds of turbines. It's putting on SCRs on the turbines. It's putting on chillers to keep the efficiency down, right? It's thinking of what creative ways of what we can do with the emissions, whether that be, carbon capture and getting paid 45Q credits. Are you in an area like in the central portion of like the DFW area or in Houston, which is called the ozone non-attainment areas, right? Where the permitting process and the emissions regulations are even more stringent. And so it's already very, very difficult to comply with these emission standards. And so trying to impose any other additional carbon reduction is really just kind of talking outside both sides of your mouth if you want America to be the leader of AI.
I heard everything you said, and yes, I completely agree, that there is virtually no way that that is gonna happen. I know, Waylon, again, over at TEG, we met with Encore, to discuss some availability of power at different locations and whatnot. The large scale loads that are required for, like, AI infrastructure and running, AI applications is huge. There is virtually no power available at the scale on grid that they need. So when you're hearing all these different, there's going to be this many megawatts, gigawatts of power going here and there. It isn't. There's none available. There's just not. And so that's where the gas generation and coal opportunities getting revisited. That's where that's coming from because it's literally the only thing that's available in the time frame that they need it and at the scale that they need it. And so yeah, when I hear these things about what they're gonna do and they're, 100% renewable and all, it I don't even know why people entertain it. It's a waste of time, it's rhetoric, and there's virtually no way that that is gonna happen. 0.
Yeah.
But
I
I'll
think
put it down right now.
natural gas is gonna put the demand on its back.
Right.
Nuclear still, in my view, 10 to
We're
15 years
so
out
far
from its
out, man.
heyday.
Yeah.
We may see some of these old coal plants kind of get revitalized, but I think there's going to be probably a little bit too much pushback. We'll talk about that here in a second. But I think natural gas is going to be the bulk of new power generation moving forward for at least the next decade, which is exactly the reason that I'm going out and trying to pursue some opportunities here.
Well, I think that it's the way, and actually TEG, we're working on some of those too. Um, so it's the toughest part is having access to turbines like you touched on, dude. They're so far out right now, depending on, who you talk to. I've heard up to like 3, 4 years at this point, and that was from like a week or 2 ago. So, it's tough, but that's why you guys are gonna be positioned for success, man. I know you're gonna land some.
Fingers
So are we
crossed.
too. Yeah, no,
Fingers
we're going
crossed.
to, man. We're going to. And the market for it, like everybody's chasing the same thing, but like you touched on your team and the ability to put this whole thing together. To me, it's completely dependent on the type of team you have and like are they capable of understanding the power and the oil and gas side and kind of checking all the boxes and bringing things together the right way. It's harder than people think, man. It might sound easy. It's much more difficult than what people think.
Yeah, yeah. There's been a lot of roadblocks and kind of pivots along the way to even get us to this point.
I
So
get a turbine and I go get the gas, and it's like, dude, this is this is way more difficult than what you're putting on it. It reminds me of back in like 2020, 2021, when everybody was like wanting to do the natural gas Bitcoin mining. I had so many people call me, "Hey, I want to do an off grid Bitcoin mine. Where do I get a well?" It's like, dude, you just gonna go buy one well? You're just gonna go
you're so out of your depth if you think you're just
right.
gonna come into the industry and start operating oil and
It's
gas
just take it
assets.
over, right?
Yeah.
It's absurd. So, but yeah, you touched on it too. The other thing that I'm interested in what is going to happen going forward is like the Galaxy deal that they just did. I think it was CoreWeave bought a Galaxy site. I think it was 200 megawatts, something like that. Those sites are the ones that if you want stable grid power or even stable behind the meter power, most of those are already taken up by Bitcoin miners. And so at what point are we going to see the Bitcoin miners are selling to the AI groups, and they
We're
are
seeing it now. I mean, this is like CoreWeave's
right,
playbook. They go to Core
right.
Scientific to do that like 10-year or 12-year, whatever. It's like
Mhm.
12, $14 billion. I don't remember the number exactly. We talked about it
It's a
on our
lot.
episode a while
Yeah.
back. But now they're doing the same thing with the Galaxy site. And it seems like this is
Right,
going to be like their model. They're like, once again, there's no limit to what we're willing to pay. We need the infrastructure. We need it today. And so
right.
we're going to just start buying sites.
Where I'm getting curious is like at what point does that start impacting hash rate? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
you
like
start
we've
having
got
hash rate getting pulled offline because
right.
the AI sites are coming in.
And significant amounts of it. 200
Yeah.
megawatts is nothing to sneeze at, you know? So, and to think like the money being poured into AI, if they can go buy a 200 megawatt, big company facility to shut it down and then pay $10 million a megawatt to build out their infrastructure. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some overlap and reduction of that, but even if you're paying 5 million for that, like that's a lot, and I think it'll be more than 5. If you're paying 10 per megawatt right now, I don't think there's gonna be $5 million of overlap because it doesn't cost that much to build a Bitcoin mine in the first place. So,
I think
like,
if I
there
remember correctly, I ran the numbers on the CoreWeave Core Scientific deal, and I think it was like 13 million a megawatt. I could be wrong.
right, it's expensive.
It was
Yeah,
really
it's
high.
expensive. Yeah, so I do think that, there'll be a point where, that starts impacting hash rate because, like, the AI groups aren't gonna wait forever for the gas generation to get there or then the grid power. Again, that's gonna be probably 3 years. If you're wanting 2, 3, 400 megawatts, and we need to get the guy from TG, Jason Bear, and a couple other dudes to come on here to talk about some of this, but, like, Chris Miller would be a good one too. The time frame that it is gonna take to get, grid power at one of these sites, you're talking minimum, like, 2 years, minimum. So, it's
And the
like, I
stakes are
could
high. We already talked about that
yeah,
it's a zero-sum game, but a lot of these groups, they have orders in that they had placed forever ago for GPUs. You can't
mhm,
have $10 billion of GPUs sitting in storage collecting dust, depreciating massively while your competitors are out outspending you, right?
right. So, it's gonna be interesting, man. I think there could be more of those type of acquisitions coming, and I do think at some point there's going to be probably some type of knock on the hash rate. I mean, so much of those AI groups are coming to the US, and the US has, like, I think 36% of the hash rate, and those are the only sites that really have that level of capability. They're Bitcoin miners. At some point, there's going to be a little bit of a ding. That's good for guys like me that have smaller mining operations. Or, hash rate going down is good for us. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's going to be interesting to see how the Bitcoin mining industry moves forward with AI. Trying to gobble up and the amount of capital they have to gobble up some of these sites. I do think still, and I've talked about this before, and I think there's legislation actually in Texas now about this, but these large AI groups, or it's talking about getting proposed, these large AI groups having to contribute some level of their power back at peak times, like that to me is going to require there to be some type of backup redundant power available to them in order to accommodate that need. And so I think that also leads to the whole kind of thesis I've had, which is AI is going to have some component of Bitcoin mining with it just to accommodate the needs that the grid is going to have for flexibility during certain periods of time. I think that
100%.
and if that legislation gets moved forward, I think that it has to. it will pass. I really believe that.
One of the problems is that a lot of these groups are trying to permit a lot more power than they're gonna bring online
Yeah, of
initially, and that's
course.
created a massive issue for the grid from a load balancing perspective. And so being able to meet whatever you're permitting with Bitcoin mining so that you have that
Mhm.
large flexible load that you can curtail and sell power back. It's this convergence. I think we've talked
Right.
about it for a while now, where Bitcoin miners are becoming AI companies are becoming Bitcoin miners, and maybe there's a new term where for these groups, kind of as they've kind of merged. So yeah, you're saying there's a few other ones I've got on my list here. Bit Digital is pivoting into AI, so they're buying a $53 million facility in North Carolina for AI. Riot is currently eyeing um, tenants for their 1 gigawatt Texas campus, specifically for AI. Um, the DOE is opening up federal lands for AI data centers and power projects. So I guess there's 16
Dang.
new federal sites that have been unlocked for AI infrastructure and on-site power demand. That's big. Um, Google and PJM are using AI to accelerate power grid interconnections. So using AI to fix the grid,
Mhm.
kind of awesome. Um, Microsoft's kind of pulling a little bit of a pause on all their new AI build outs. They had bought the 3 Mile Island nuclear facility that was mothballed, and they're trying to bring that back. And so I think that they're really trying to go all in on nuclear. I don't know if this is just posturing or if this is actually, their kind of stance on this. I don't really know.
I don't know either, man. Anything anything, Bill Gates is involved in, I get kinda squeamish about. So, I don't
Tell me
know,
about it.
man. Bill Gates in a freaking nuclear facility, man. S It sounds
But
scary. It sounds like a movie.
two other things on the policy side that we skipped over would be Ted Cruz has introduced the Flare Act to
Right.
incentivize Bitcoin mining with flared gas, which makes a ton of sense.
Mm.
And I feel like I have to take at least a little bit of credit. Not taking credit. I'm sure. I'm sure Lee and a bunch of other guys have also played probably a much larger part than I did. But we had Ted Cruz the first in power. It was his first kind of
Truth.
exposure to Bitcoin mining, and then we hosted a breakfast the next morning with like 20 of the largest miners for a couple hours, and he asked a lot of like really great questions. And so I feel like that was kind of the genesis of kind of getting him on this track. So just gonna pat myself on
Good
the back a
job,
little bit.
Jake. Man,
So
well done.
I know, but this
And
act makes
Power's
a
just got a
ton of sense.
history of making a great impact. We gotta
I
bring it
know.
back.
We got to bring it back.
Gotta
Another
bring it back.
another shameless plug for Empower. And then last thing I have on my list would be Trump is trying to bring back coal power for AI infrastructure, like we talked about. I think, yeah, I mean, we don't not to be a dead horse, but if it comes down to national security, zero sum game for AI, us being the leaders in that, if it comes down to having to fire up some coal power generation, then absolutely we should do it.
Oh, yeah. I think we should do it. I mean, those all of those reasons are reasons to do it, and honestly, man, Trump, he ain't worried about that. He's gonna be all about it.
Yep.
What about American Bitcoin? We didn't even talk about that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Eric Trump launched American Bitcoin with, I don't know if
Trump
he's
train's getting on the
with
Bitcoin train.
the Hut 8 CEO, Asher
Yeah.
Ganoot.
Mhm.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
I love the ambition. I mean, they're saying that they want to be the largest pure play Bitcoin miner in North America with 50 exahash and a Bitcoin treasury reserve. Love the ambition. How are they going to raise the money to be able to outpace Mara and Riot
Mhm.
and anybody else who's already pretty much at that scale?
They're gonna use
And
a
it's
Trump
also
coin.
probably use Trump coin, maybe the Trump gold card. And
Yeah.
it's also just it's a weird positioning to say that you're going to be a pure play miner, given everything we just talked about and all the
Right.
reasons why there is this convergence and wanting to diversify into different revenue streams with AI infrastructure, just given the demand and just how much money you can make. It just seems like an odd move at this time to go and be pure play. But I'm
You know,
curious to
I
see how it
would
plays
say
out.
that I would say that too if I didn't think that, and I'm not saying from an ethical standpoint, whether it's good or bad, but I think watching what the freaking market will do when Trump tweets, I can't imagine what Bitcoin would do when Trump tweets some other stuff. You know what I mean? We saw just him winning the huge run up on Bitcoin that we saw. But I'm not gonna lie, there was part of me when I saw that, that was like, "Man, Bitcoin at $1,000,000 would probably start seriously rivaling anything that you could get from the AI world." So,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. And then when I saw the revenues from tariffs could be considered a budget neutral, way to acquire Bitcoin for the strategic reserve, in the government's opinion, that's pretty interesting. There was some other ways I can't remember off the top of my head that they mentioned would be considered budget neutral ways to stack Bitcoin for the strategic reserve. Um, and if that started happening, if the U.S. government was a buyer with I can't remember what they're saying the tariff should produce 600+ billion dollars a year, something like that. Um, that's a pretty big pocketbook to be buying some Bitcoin with, man.
Yeah,
Michael
you ain't
Saylor
lying.
don't have nothing on that.
Mm. A
So,
lot of cool stuff, man. I mean, it's never been
oh yeah,
more
super
fun to
interesting.
be in this space at the intersection of all these things. There's a lot of movement. It is kind of weird. Isn't it weird that like Bitcoin's been like relatively like steady at like
Knock
84,000?
on wood. Yeah, I know, but I do think that goes back to, hopefully, and I said this actually, there was that dip back down in the 70s after he announced, Liberation Day or whatever it was, but it took a couple days after the market moved before Bitcoin kinda tanked. Now Bitcoin came back up, and yeah, I've heard people I read these articles and they're always like, "Oh, Bitcoin, the big pullback," and it's like, man, this has been a week, 2 weeks since it was in the 70s, but they're still talking about it as if it's right now, and it's like, yeah, it has held up relatively well when you compare it to the rest of the market. So, I think it's a testament to the narrative change that's kind of coming, with Bitcoin being looked at as a dollar replacement or a safe as far as world currency is concerned, or being a safe haven asset. And I just think people recognize the potential for it down the road. I saw some great articles from like Forbes and even the Wall Street Journal, I believe, just about the positioning of Bitcoin and what it could do with the dollar slipping some and with the uncertainty in the market. And it's like, man, 2 years ago, we would have never saw anything like that in you know, what did Lisa call when she's on here? Lamestream media or something, or legacy media, legacy media. We wouldn't have seen that type of stuff before. And so, yeah, I do feel like there's been a major, major narrative shift, and I think that's just going to continue to happen. I really do. So I think we were. I'm never going to say that we're not susceptible to wild swings. We always will be. I think it just acts like a commodity a lot of ways, and you know how to. You've
It's
been in the oil
traded
and gas world,
24/7, 365,
right? Like
right?
it's always susceptible, and when
Volatility is
you
a feature, not a
right,
bug.
right, right, and so I don't know, man. I've also moved past a lot of the early stages of like Bitcoin adoption on an individual basis. Those wild swings can scare you. They don't really
Mhm.
bother me anymore, man. No, not really at all. It's like,
Yeah, I don't pay attention to
you
it.
know, yeah, you're
I
used to
don't,
it,
but
and
it's
it's
on my
like,
home screen. It's on my lock screen on my phone, but I don't really pay attention
yeah.
to it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely look every
Oh,
day, but I look at it to see what I wanna do when I'm playing with, like, MSTU and those. I don't like, my Bitcoin's my Bitcoin, man. Like, that's I just keep buying and keep mining.
stacking it, baby.
Maybe
Well, I think
that's what
that's
I
the
should tell
pod.
my daughter
So
to get tattooed. Keep
yeah,
buying, keep buying, and keep mining. That's it. Oh,
that's the
that's a
tattoo.
tattoo. Yep, I'm gonna tell her. But
Well,
yeah, man.
guys, good to be back. If y'all are interested in getting on the wait list for Empower, want to give some feedback, great idea, terrible idea. We know it's a great idea, but if you don't think it's a good idea, I'd love us to know about it as well. Go fill out the wait list. I'll put it in the show notes. It's also at energizingbitcoin.com. Just go up to the top there and just click on Empower. And yeah, we'll see you guys again soon.
Later.